Welcome to the audio experience of KimberlySueIverson.com, a redhead rewriting reality and multi-genre author. I am your host, Kimberly Sue Iverson, and today I'll be sharing with you a story that's close to my heart. If you prefer to read along or explore more stories, visit my website at KimberlySueIverson.com. This audio experience is for an adult audience. Themes and topics may not be appropriate or suitable for all audiences, so listener and viewer discretion is advised. Now, get yourself comfy as we dive into today's tale. You don't need permission. Leave it to Chewbacca to be quiet and sleep all morning until I sit down to write this up. That man has great timing. It never fails. I'll update you on how they are doing. Again, if you're new to this channel, blog, or me, I have 2 dogs who are elderly and near the end. Kendra is 15 and Chewbacca is 17. They're Shih Tzus and basically like husband and wife. I'm not being facetious. Ever since we brought Kendra home, she has been all over him and he with her. They truly love one another, and I think it's a huge reason why both have held on to this point. They don't want to be without the other. They're that close. It's why brother and I were hoping vets wouldn't just work with us for one, but both, to be able to put them both down at once. Needless to say, no, that's not the case. Not where I live. Zero help. I've reached the point I'm letting Chewbacca decide what he wants in terms of eating and drinking. This past week, I have tried just about everything we have that he can eat to entice him into eating. I have been giving him the calorie supplement, but on Saturday, it's Monday now when I write this, I could barely get any into him. When I try to do it, I have had to push it toward the back of his throat and squirt a little, just so he only really has to swallow. But now he fights me and whimpers a little, so I'm not going to force just to appease my own discomfort. Yesterday, I spent the day going through the final signs of elderly pets when they get close to passing. I remembered my cat Tabitha being just really cold. She only wanted to sleep, and she no longer wanted food. Like with Chewbacca, I'd ended up giving her a calorie supplement, but realized it was me forcing her to stick around longer just because I was trying to get her to keep eating. She too had one day done similar as Chewbacca and kind of fought me doing that. There'd been this point she reached, like Chewbacca is at now, where it was almost as if she was saying, "Stop. Please, just let go." As hard as that time had been, I did. I have a video or 2 on YouTube where I'd filmed her because inside I felt I may never get a chance to again. Even after all this time, I am beginning to tear up. That was in fact the last I could film her. She passed either the next day or within a few days of that video. She was one of my harder losses. Outside of getting a cat for brother and ending up having to raise Dakota, Tabitha was the last cat I'd had. She'd been the end point for me. The pet you have that when you lose, that interest in another goes. It hurts too deeply. Past the tears, past the surface level, down deeper into the soul. I'll be surprised if I can record the audio version of this without ending up taking breaks to stop tearing up. The other sign that Tabitha had shown me she was reaching the end point was when she wanted to lay in the living room in one spot, in the middle of everyone, and she rarely moved. She slept there on the floor, and that was it. My Australian shepherd, Sabrina, had laid next to her nearly all day, every day. And Chewbacca, too. Chewbacca, I think, was a baby at that time, but I remember seeing him in the photos with her. That was the other sign I'd known that time was coming. It wasn't just her cold body all the time, so I'd keep a blanket on her, or her lack of interest in food, but the other animals we'd had, like Sabrina. Chewbacca's body temperature hasn't begun to drop yet, though it did seem a bit cooler yesterday, but Kona has been wanting to lay by him a lot more. The others got to the point they didn't want to be near him because for the last month? They'd get annoyed with his incessant need to move and adjust himself or whine. But now I'm not going to keep forcing him to eat when he himself does go to the dog bowls and eat a few pebbles. Literally a few pebbles. Maybe in the morning or night. But he doesn't want anything else. And I feel the same thing inside with him that I had with Tabitha. Just stop. So I'm gonna respect his wishes and let him decide. He's still drinking water, but when I did get a lot of food, more than normal at least, though it still wasn't much, into him last week, it came right back out. So I think his body is beginning that slow process of shutting down, and his organs can't process a lot of food. Why he doesn't want to eat, and it's slowly been dwindling for the amounts. His body just can't process that same amount. And when he may get more than normal in him, it comes right back out. Another reason why I don't want to force anything. If he gets more calories than his body can process, he gets a stomach ache. And that taxes him even more. I mean, I can't even handle a stomach ache. So I get it. My body is at its limits, and when I do something that causes issues, it takes what little energy I have and goes poof. I'm not going to do that with him. He can still walk and move on his own, but I do carry him to potty to make it easier on him. Otherwise, I risk him going wherever he feels. He also, as I said above, is drinking water on his own, and a decent amount. He just now wants to mostly sleep. He even sleeps through the night more, which is good for all of us. Kendra even gave us a couple decent nights. She too is around the point mostly she is sleeping all day, but now she keeps wandering in random weird spaces when she does her wanderings. I tried giving her a calming treat and CBD oil to see if it'd ease up, but I don't think that affects her as much. It's just when she does it to the point she seems exhausted, I administer the CBD oil. It gives them stomach aches if I do it too often, why I'm careful with it. But the other day I heard her whining, and I was going, where on earth is she? I found her in this small space in my mom's room where I have some stuff stacked to deal with. Okay, got her out and fixed that. Well, then she somehow got behind a door and got stuck another time. Fixed that hole. Next was a chair, and when I edit this, I found her stuck under my bed. I am not sure why she wanders, but often now I can grab her at a certain point and take her back to my room, settle her in one of the dog beds in there, and she'll be okay. I don't bother putting her in the living room Because one, she herself chooses my room instead of the living room since it's quiet, but she's hypersensitive to anything loud. And loud by definition can be just maybe closing a book too hard, or one of the others barking once or twice, even in play. It can be anything over normal volume. She gets freaked and disappears. I think I mentioned it previously that my brother, her quote-unquote daddy, gets a higher allowance from her. My voice, though, nope. To the title of this post. I obviously have thoughts on my mind all the time around healing from all I've been through with my mom and processing so much of that. Thoughts on why this can be hard, or that can be hard, and why others who've been traumatized or abused in general, but especially by a narcissist, can struggle with this or that. It's just something that I started in my 20s, I think. Maybe before. Maybe around when I read this book, Being Happy. It came before The Secret and before manifesting and law of attraction was so big. Not that that stuff didn't still exist. Obviously, it's existed forever, even if people didn't use the same termage. But I'd never considered how my thoughts could affect my life so much or my actions. The point isn't about that or the book, so I'm not dwelling on that point. It's just around then, I'd really wanted to understand why abusers abused, why I did what I did, why others did what they did. It wasn't a conscious thing. I didn't one day go, I'm going to understand all this. I have just always been into psychology and took beginning career focused courses for credit in this high school diploma program I'd enrolled in. You could get credits to apply to whatever subject you chose. So I did 5 different ones, and psychology was one. I even considered pursuing a career around it, but understood that I couldn't bear to take on a bunch of other people and their issues, stresses, problems, day in and day out, and handle it. Similar as to why I didn't become a vet. I couldn't handle dealing with the stress of so many animals being hurt and potentially losing that many. It's a huge reason I gravitated toward helping people in other ways. Being the ear when they had none, offering my presence if they had nobody else they could ask things of, someone to lean on, and blogging. It kept me from having rules to follow, though I do follow plenty, like privacy and making clear I am just a normal person, not a doctor, not a professional. I've just been through a lot and have been exposed to people my whole life. So I can do educated guesses, and instincts have been good even for others. But that's it. Not a professional at all. My opinion, even on these posts, is just an opinion. I am not someone to live by, but if I can help even one person relax, or feel not alone, or just provide a good story to escape to, that makes me happy. Often, though, strangers provide us the most help. There is no bias, there is no judgment. There is simply, here is what I hear, here is another option, do with it what you will. I've helped a lot more come down from that ledge and turn their life around for the better than I ever expected to. I didn't ask for that sort of responsibility, but if someone shows up, who are we to say, go away and find help elsewhere? That's often what led to their problem in the first place. So an ear I give, and for everyone who's come to me, I've seen a complete shift that happened in their life. Some strangers, though, I have told them about the 811 hotline that's now available for anyone who is thinking negative thoughts and needs someone, because I felt they needed a more experienced ear after we'd talked, and at that time I was not in a place to help even self. But long ago I wanted to understand so much why people behaved how they did, and it helped me become better for the people around me. But long ago I wanted to understand so much why people behaved how they did, and it helped me become better for the people around me. It helped me learn myself and learn others, and I still have the same level of fascination as I always had. Learning is always a passion of mine. It's even why I enjoyed asking questions of people and posted daily questions long ago before it became a thing on social media. I was actually harassed a lot for doing it in the beginning, brother and his friends being the biggest. I still remember them being critical for me, quote unquote, posting so much on Facebook, and yet look at people now. I'm meanwhile the one who rarely posts. While I was sweeping up the driveway, in a moment I've been feeling more able to move somewhat, it hit me that often it's almost like I've been waiting for permission again. Not just me, but I see it in my older brother too, waiting to be told what to do. What do I mean? Where did that start? It started with a random thought around how it came across to others when they'd see what appeared on the outside to be my brother and I not really helping my mom with stuff. I remember this was long ago, standing in the yard with one of the dogs while my mom was working. Someone was talking to me and made the casual comment about me not helping her. Meanwhile, unaware that if I dared step into what she was doing, I would have gotten bitched out for it. For the usual. Needing to control, unable to let up on the control, wanting to control her, always wanting to be involved in everything she did, and it would go on. Because that control one was a big attack. Kim wanted to move stuff in the kitchen to help her cook dinner better. The person who was always in the kitchen and spent most of her time in there? How dare I? My mom sometimes came in there and would rearrange things just based on her mood. And she'd rinse a dish, this was her version of washing, and then put it away. A bowl goes into the pot storage, a plate in the bowl storage. Who cared? It fit. So if I came in there to put things where they belonged, or noticed there was food on a dish still, so set it back in the sink, I'd get told off for controlling everything. You always have to have it your way. You think you control it all, don't you? It always has to be Kim's way, doesn't it? You want to control everything I do. There were these pictures on the wall and the living room window that reflected what happened in the kitchen. It's how my mom watched every move I made in there when I was in there. It felt beyond creepy and unnerving because even there, I didn't have peace. Even there, she monitored everything I did. So those moments of putting stuff back where it belonged, so I didn't have to walk to the other side of the kitchen when I was cooking for a spice, she'd see it, log it for later, or gripe at that time. And that's one of those things I love mentioning because to the outside, like she often counted on, if you didn't know her or you knew only her version, that does look like I'm controlling her, that I have a need for my way and to control the environment. In a way, yeah, I do and did. If I'm the one in the kitchen cooking all the time, why would it be illogical to want to have stuff the way I need it? So I did like to control where things got placed and how it was organized, and I didn't like to leave it how she'd do it just to please her. I own that. Show me one cook who doesn't want to control their cooking environment and will get annoyed with things being out of order, out of place, or otherwise. Precisely. I am a control freak for plenty of stuff like that. I don't deny it. She often counted, though, on that opposing interpretation. With her ability to storytell and convince others of her lies, then when she mentioned those sequence of events, oh wow, your daughter is something else, isn't she? So I would learn to keep to myself. It's why I still struggle with that. Talking to people, leaning on them, opening up to them. As I said before this is easier, but one-on-one, so much more difficult. Because I hear that opposing belief in my head. The belief that I'm the problem. The belief that something is wrong with me. The belief I'm unwanted. That I'm not enough. That I'm a lot of work. Just bad, bad, bad. The belief that what I do isn't quote-unquote normal, and it's abnormal, therefore bad. And again, I'm bad. What I think, feel, do, believe is bad and wrong. The cycle is never ending inside. It's what slowly happened with feelings, as if I needed permission to do anything. As if to organize the kitchen, I'd have to say, "Mother dearest, may I organize the kitchen to my liking?" Or, "Mother dearest, may I go shower now?" What's further frustrating, and would be that had it become to that point, then that too would have been wrong. Because they are never satisfied, and it doesn't matter which path you choose, left or right, is wrong. Because those moments where I'd reach a point where I'd ask her if I could do something, that too got stuff. That too would have that aspect of, "See, you're too stupid to think for yourself. Jesus, do you need me to tell you what to do?" The war was never over. There was never a time to set that shield down and breathe. The attack could come from left field at any time, day or night. Mostly when I was beyond exhausted, worn down, and just at my lowest in energy. Then, bam! Time to take Kim on with ensuring she knows how little she is, how not valued, how terrible and pathetic she is, how controlling she is, manipulative, terrible, horrible, selfish, worthless, you name it. While I was sweeping the driveway, I felt that come up and realized that a lot of what feels as if it's holding me back at times is the mere aspect of permission, as if I'm waiting for permission to do things still, waiting for permission to clean how I want, to wake and sleep how I want. I'm not being dramatic either. When people looked from the outside, it came across as if my brother and I were lazy. But day in and day out of someone being critical of everything you did, to the point it began to feel as if you needed to ask permission to do anything at all, even to breathe. It became easier not to try to do much and not fight against that tide or work hard to do things. It became easier to do nothing ever. I came to that idea because of watching my brother and his inability to gain motivation right now. I understand medically there's so much in his system, and he's lacked for a long time, that it can be a huge cause of an overall laze. I have felt similar in me. Fatigue. Pure and simple. I am fatigued. Like a deep, deep fatigue that sleep and rest and all the coffee in the world doesn't fix. It can help perk me up, make me think clearer, but the fatigue doesn't go away. Actually, with coffee, I'm becoming like my mom. She had a resistance to it, and when it came to causing her sleep issues, she could drink coffee and go right to nap for hours or sleep in general. I used to not be able to drink it after a certain hour without it causing sleep issues. Now, shoot, I've had it within some hours of bed on accident, and later realized I never had issues. Fell right to sleep. It doesn't affect me like others. Never really had, but now even less. While I swept the driveway, I realized a huge difference between my brother and I right now. What used to anger my mom often about me, and brother for her too back in the day, was that I never really caved to that needing permission aspect of the dynamic. I did, though, get to the point where I began to stop trying many things because I knew I would get harassed and belittled. So it was not worth the fight or energy, as I've said in a recent blog. It was to the point where it was almost a laziness and lack of motivation. But today I thought to myself, what if it was also about permission? The lack of motivation came from some deep part of my brother and I, where we'd begun to give up the fight on so many levels just so we'd be let up on. All this being on a subconscious level, that it began to show up as laziness. The battle was tiresome. The so-called permission needed to do things was so exhausting that laziness set in. Now, bear in mind again that both of us deal with a lot of exhaustion that he's now learned for him is medically an issue. I won't give away those details, but he has a real reason for it medically, and I'm sure that will be the case when I can eventually get to a doctor too. This goes beyond that, because even while I fight against that exhaustion, the weakness in my body, the pain, and all of it, I don't sit down all day and do nothing ever. I get up and try to clean, try to stay on top of the dog haircuts, nail trims. I fail at it, and cleaning out this house. I get up no matter how tired I am and do something. And I'm beginning to believe that's a lot of it for both of us. We are only just discussing how we both have those moments hit us where we go, oh, I can leave this here. I can throw this away. I can get rid of this. I can not hide these things if I leave my room. We are finally both gathering. We don't have to wait for permission, even on how we schedule our day or what we watch or eat, because I like very little food, but sometimes I like weird foods that aren't actually weird. My mom just always made a disgusted face when I'd eat and criticize it with that tone, making the person, me, who already had issues with food and eating, want to not eat more. I have always struggled with that. When we were small, she didn't keep the kitchen clean and cook foods or keep the house stocked well, so I would find anything I could to eat, even if it was loosely defined as food. It filled my stomach, so what did it matter? We were neglected as children. I'm not sure if our lack of food as children is what contributed to my weird food habits or what, but my brother coined me a bird long ago for it. I go eat a few bites, go on about my day, then eat a few more bites here and there. I do better with that method, but when I was trying to lose weight in my 20s and 30s, I really did go into trying to eat actual meals and decent ones. But even that, I'd feel I needed permission for, so when I do finally sit down to eat something, I have those thoughts in my mind. I hear her griping about how I eat, what I am doing. I have her right next to me telling me what for, as if I'm a grotesque human for it. When one would think if your child is getting food into them and you don't have decent food in the kitchen anyway, you'd be glad, not full on terrorize them for being weird. That has to be a huge aspect of the motivation my brother and I lack often. I find it easier to push back because, 1, I've always been that way with wanting work on the house and yard and other things, and 2, I was the one used to pushing back against her. I'd kinda accepted she hated me, and I was a quote-unquote horrible, disgusting, stupid human in her eyes, so I knew I'd get told off. Knew I'd get yelled at. Knew I'd tell her she was being rude and not helping me. Also knew I'd get raged at. It was a normal, near daily, occurrence at times. So I'd almost desensitized myself to it. I could handle a lot more when I understood it more, realizing it had nothing to do with me, realizing it was on her. Realizing maybe I was what she said, and so what? If I were pathetic, I couldn't change it apparently. But maybe I wasn't what she said, too. That was just her interpretation of me. So I'd accepted many of those things and just let a lot of it go over my head most of the time. Not always, not even close. And I wasn't immune to it, not even close. It's just much of it I'd become desensitized to, and it would go right on past me like air. It was too commonplace. We don't need permission to live. Maybe, just maybe though, it's what may help my brother slowly become more interested and motivated in doing more in general. We both have a lot of those moments we feel we're only just gathering we can do as we please. Not only will we not be criticized, but we're not going to have it go and we don't have to be prepared for a later attack because of what we did. As if she'd expect us to ask permission for anything and everything we did. As if deep down we began to think we needed to do that. and ask permission for doing even the simplest of things. And that's why we both struggle still to find the motivation and drive to get back into doing a lot of those things we used to do. Not just from being exhausted, but some deeper part of us had begun to believe we needed her permission to do anything outside of sit and wait for her command. That was in my head while I swept earlier. You don't need permission to do what you want. Just do it. It was toward my brother in my head, but I can see my own aspects in that. Plenty I haven't just got rid of because on a weird subconscious level, I keep having to fight the she'll need that later, she'll get mad if I get rid of it thoughts. Only to go, she isn't here anymore. She has no say. This is our house now and our stuff to do as we please with. We don't need permission to do as we please. Might be something many of us have deep down in us who've dealt with abusers in any form. Some deep part of us almost felt as if we needed to be told what to do still, or needed permission to do a single thing, when we don't. We don't need to be told anything. We just need to do it. Like Nike says, just do it. More to come. Thank you for reading and subscribing, or listening in this case. I know how valuable your time is, so it means so much that you're here, and I'm beyond grateful you chose to spend this time with me. What are your thoughts? Is this a struggle that you've had? Can you relate to any of this? Engage with me and start a conversation. Just don't be rude about it. If you'd like a chance for your story to be read and featured, get in touch at storiesToRead@KimberlySueIverson.com. A new episode and blog is dropped every Wednesday on KimberlySueIverson.com or on YouTube under Kimber Bites. That's KimberBites, Kimber Bites. And don't forget to check out my Ream subscription page. Another chapter is up. I am releasing Guardians of the Void chapter by chapter over on Ream right now. I will be releasing my Priestess World as well soon, long before the public gets the books. You'll be able to read the chapters as I write them and help with the world. You'll get to read extra scenes that may not make the cut either. This is still being thought out on how I will, so they haven't been posted yet, but stay tuned. Also, that world is still in progress, but I have written almost 3 books. I'm nearing the end of the 3rd one. That's the one that when you follow me on social media, if you see the updates, that's the one it's about. If I actually do some writing and get all excited, that's typically the world I'm writing in. So check out reamstories.com/Kimberly Sue Iverson. That's reamstories.com/KimberlySueIverson. reamstories.com/Kimberly Sue Iverson. That link also will be in the description box below, unless I completely forget to add it, at which point you can remind me.